Hey everyone, this is Ryan, and you are listening to the next installment of the Westchester Informed podcast. I've been away for a while, trying to obviously get my own affairs in order and figure all this craziness out. I know you're probably in the same boat, just in regard to being at home, trying to stay safe, trying to figure out how you're going to get groceries without completely looking like a goofball, but making sure you're safe, and that's the ultimate thing. We're not used to this. We're figuring it out as we go, and it's interesting to have gone through even some of the things when you think you've got it all under control. Sometimes what your body and your mind does when you're stuck in a certain place or can't go anywhere, and you start to it starts to play with your mind a little bit, and then you're around your family a lot more than you were before. Things are different for kids, so that's all the changes that we're trying to get used to. But I thought, for sure, I've been wanting to get to this for the last 2-3 weeks, to get out and talk a little bit more with some of the leaders of our village, to get a little bit more understanding of what's going on locally, to get an understanding of if there's anything that we need to know, if there's questions that need to be asked. And I've thought of some, but I've also put it out on Facebook to understand a little bit of the questions that y'all might have. And so I've got my guest today, Paul Nosek, the village manager. How you doing, Paul?
Good, Ryan. How are you?
Good, good. So I thought you were probably one of the most important, if not the guy, to do this one with, because you can give us the most updates as to what the heck's going on, at least village-wise and locally, and we can just
Sure.
chat it out and
Absolutely.
see what's been going on. I guess I'll let you start it wherever you want, because first of
Sure.
all, how have you been? How's family life? How's quarantine for you?
I've actually been busier than usual.
Yeah.
You know, we've been trying to make things as normal as possible at the village. Um, we've been rotating staff in here. We've been trying to, although we're not open to the public just yet, we are continuing to do business. So, for example, if someone is closing on a house, we will let the individual in to do what they have to do to close and proceed. The good thing in all this, the silver lining, is we're adapting. We're trying to figure out ways and come up with ways to use technology to allow us to do a lot of these things remotely and via computer, um, kind of like we're doing here with our meeting. You know, trying to leverage technology as best we can. Um, we have changed up the procedures on the compliance inspections for now, only because we don't want an inspector to have to go out for these compliance inspections and be in the house, and we don't want to put anyone in danger, and we don't want the homeowners to be at danger, and we don't want our employee to be in danger. So we're allowing people to sign off on a waiver, and they could have the inspection done in 90 days. Or if they had an inspector, their own inspector, usually the buyer gets an inspector anyway. Um, so if their buyer's inspector gives us a copy of the report, looks for the items that we're looking for, um, we could handle the compliance that way for now. Um, so that's been working out fine. As far as going for permits, we have the forms are on the web. People could drop them off. We'll do the plan review, get it out. We still are doing inspections, um, just practicing social distancing. Our inspectors are going out with the proper equipment so that they're protected.
Okay.
We keep all that as normal as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, as normal as possible. That was my first experience with anything village related when the stay-at-home order was put in place, was wanting to get a stamp to deal with my own deed. Are you seeing, I guess for people that might be curious, are you seeing activity? Obviously, realtors are seeing a big decline in activity, but do you have
Yes.
any handle on how much activity is really going on?
It's not much. It's pretty quiet.
Yeah.
Uh, Following up with the inspections that we had on the books, but not that much new stuff is coming in, unfortunately. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of factors to that, probably financing being one of them.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I
But
think
what's
everybody
going
put
on?
everything on hold. I mean,
Yeah,
I had a couple projects myself, being in the real estate business and renovation business. People either didn't want you in their home because they weren't sure where you went or where you've been and stuff like that, which I totally, that's really where we should be.
yeah,
But not, maybe somebody's in the middle of something they can't just put down. And so what I hear you saying is just continue to go ahead and try to reach out or find ways to complete what you got going, or to try to, if you have the means, maybe to go ahead and continue to get the permit or do what you need to do.
right.
Yeah. All right.
So that's the other thing. I mean, we're still open. We still have people coming in, and we're still very busy. We're still taking in all of the um, vehicle stickers. We're still working on that. People have a ton of questions on that because we're coming down to the deadline. We've been selling them since March. They're
Let's
due
let's clarify that if we could. So, what's the ultimate there? I mean, we're at the 13th, and they were due by the 30th. And first, I think there was some information on, at least what I saw on Facebook or going around, that was, who knows at this point, probably a rumor, but 30 days from the time in which they lift the stay at home. Is that not true?
No, that's not true.
Okay.
So vehicle stickers are due and need to be on your car by April 30th.
Okay.
It hasn't changed. I think a lot of the confusion was that we had started issuing tickets for on April 1st
Hmm.
for street maintenance. At the end of the winter season, we start with the street maintenance program, and that's where I think a lot of people, there was a lot of complaining on Facebook because everybody was at home. They couldn't move their cars. They were told to stay in the house. We got every excuse possible.
Right.
Uh, so the board and the village president said, okay, anyone who had tickets, we're going to we're going to forgive those tickets, take those as a warning, and starting May 1st, we are going to be ticketing again for street maintenance violations. That also coincides with having your sticker on your car by May 1st.
Okay.
We've been following them since March 30 or March 1st, so it's going on 2 months. There's a lot of ways to get them. You should have gotten a form in the mail listing your vehicles. If that information is incorrect, simply fill out the correct information and send your check in. You can mail it in, you could drop it at the drop box. That's fine as long as we have it by the end of the month. You'll be registered that you have the sticker. If you don't happen to have it on your car because we didn't get it to you in time, we'll at least know that you paid and we can work that out should you get a ticket.
Yeah. Okay. And that's some of the things that I like to do this for also, is just the idea that, look, it's a kind of a social experiment for us all in a way. And so if we're all reasonable and we're all willing to work together, I think one of the nice things is to be able to have you on to say that Westchester at least is also being reasonable with this. And you know, you hear a lot of excuses out there, and I'm just somebody who personally likes to, as much as I can, take sort of personal responsibility for whatever I was supposed to do. And I know people get real passionate about this stuff, and I think a lot of people with a concern for doing what's right, or whether it's just doing something on time, they get real concerned about whether or not they're going to be, like you say, ticketed or forced to do something, or if the village is sort of after us, and it's just
Yeah,
nice to have you on to let them know that I don't at least think that that's the way it would be. And so if it's if there's something reasonable that has happened, or something that has kept you from doing something, then express that. You're probably here to work with people to understand what's going on, and if there's a certain unique situation, then so be it. But
and that's exactly it. We don't want to ticket our residents, even with the compliance tickets. So that was going to lead me to my next topic, which is the building department, and coming up on the summer season when people hopefully will be starting to do projects and remodel and put up a fence or do an addition or put brick pavers. um, and compliance issues. So we're going to do an article in the May edition, and we're going to have a page every month now dedicated to the building department and what's needed, what compliance looks for, and what you need to do to correct those things. We don't want to give tickets to anybody, um, but we also do want a clean neighborhood. We don't want to go the other way and allow people to just uh, not keep their houses maintained. So we're
Yeah.
going to lay that out for you. We're going to say, hey, we look for peeling paint. We look for siding that's missing, broken windows. We'll just go down the list and say, hey, these are things that we look for that you may get a warning for if your grass is too tall. Some people may not even realize that there's an ordinance regarding that. Um,
Yeah.
Next paper, which also is on the web all the time, um, just to give people in residency the idea of what we're looking for and what's needed. And we're here to work with you. We'll give you time to fix whatever you need to fix, and if you need more time, like I said, we're here to work with you, not against you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like that because I know when we first got the stay-at-home order, and I'm in a business where it's something that can happen. A lot of people are working from home, and we were in a situation where we just sort of stayed home, and that I didn't have to go out for anything. I had dropped all my plans, and it was funny because just in the first week, you start to realize how much subconscious stress or anxiety you might go through, even though you feel sort of fine. I I started to look like a teenager, how much I broke out in my face, and so it just was a telling sign. It's sort of a funny anecdotal thing that
Yeah,
like it's just a telling sign that no matter how you feel, sometimes on the outside or what you might think is going on, there's a subconscious stress level and anxiety that you're not always aware of. And so with that in mind, we're all under that in some way, whether you might realize it or not. And so the last thing we want is to, or that I should say you want, would be to create any kind of stress. But there also has been, the other side of the coin where some people are sort of, it feels like this is going to go away. And we know that eventually it's going to be, not even if it doesn't go away, it's going to somehow be managed, whether that's through, you know,
yeah, new procedures or whatever.
yeah, therapies, or whether it's through a vaccine or whatever it might be. This is just a new normal for us. And so knowing that, it's not good to try to ditch out on any responsibilities just because you can. And so you hope
Sure.
that not too much of that is going on. But in terms of parking tickets and things, I mean, one of the questions obviously would be, I, so the village stickers are still due, and that will be displayed by May 1st. And then there was a hiatus put on ticketing for parking, right? Until May 1st then?
Yeah, on the street maintenance tickets, yes.
Street maintenance. Okay. And so then can you talk a little bit to how much maybe that affects budget? I know this is kind of a whole rabbit hole, but like people
Yeah.
are asking a lot about what happens to some of, we already had the huge debate when it came to home rule now and budget and things like that. Now we have this. I know this might be, sort of a longer thing for you have to talk about, but can you talk a little bit about the sort of the budgets? What are you hearing? Is Cook County telling us anything? Is the state telling us anything?
They are not telling us much. Um, but obviously our revenue generators are the property tax, sales tax, income tax, those type of things.
Hmm.
Um, Fees and fines, yeah, they do make up a portion of our budget, but if we give a holiday on those, unfortunately, there always seems to be enough people breaking the law where we can ticket people. That being said, just taking a month off shouldn't drastically affect our budget. I'm just trying to look up here real quick
Yeah.
um, what it might be as far as annual revenue per per month, but maybe
Yeah, and no, take the time you need. If not,
2,000.
not now, but I mean, maybe we could do another one of these down the road where we can just sort of a dry one where we talk more about specific numbers. I know some people get into that, and some people are just kind of like, yeah,
Yeah,
as long as they have it under control and the right people are in place to understand that, then I get
yeah,
it. There's gonna be less fees and less fines coming in, and that's just gonna impact us the way it does. So
yeah,
yeah, it would be a curious question. What did we see last April in terms of that income, and then what might happen just in the 13 days of April that we've seen thus far? And this is actually going back to March. I mean,
right.
we started. I forget that exact date, but we started this in March. So
Yeah,
what
yeah,
March 17th? I think I was in the village for the vote, and
yeah,
so
yeah. And it started before that because
yeah,
I pointed that they even continued with the vote, but
yeah.
politics, unfortunately, with the state. Um,
That said, let me ask you. So, do you feel like the early on things? How many cases? Do you know how many cases there are in our immediate area? I'm not. I haven't even.
no, no, and people were asking about that, and I hate to be on the doom and gloom side and track all of that stuff.
Yeah, I
Uh,
know.
so I don't know the exact number in the village of Westchester.
Yeah,
But I know
I looked at Illinois. They have it online just at
Cook County,
1672.
too, Cook County has a website.
Yeah, Cook County has 14,100. It says, but um, this thing is so strange for us to wrap our head around, and it's interesting too socially to see how many people just want to understand so quickly what this is and the impact it has, but sometimes it's hard even to get into that mode. I think some of my silent stress comes from being in that mode where you try to say, well, this is something new. It's gonna take us a while, and try to be as reasonable as I can about how long it's going to take us to figure these things out, and the numbers that what they call the denominator and all that, and numerator and denominator. But it's like, it's at some point they're going to have better, more exact numbers for us. But as humans, I think, and I don't know, this is just kind of a tangent, but like as humans, we just want to understand things as fast as we can so that we can
Yeah,
decide what to do or how to act or how to be or what to think. And this just isn't one of those things. I mean, right now I'm looking at Google and it says Cook County has 14,100 confirmed cases, and for some reason it says 2 recovered. So now we know that's not correct, right? I mean, we know that this is a silent type of thing that you can
I
carry.
think nowadays we live in a society where everyone wants to know facts and figures, yet
Hmm.
they really have nothing to do with that information. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not going to change their day-to-day life. It's not going to impact them directly. Um, so sometimes I just think that spewing information and facts and figures really, sometimes more than anything, just scares people.
Yeah,
And
it's almost like how scared to be, and you hate to put it that way, but it is true. It's like how people want to know how scared to be, and it's like, well, some people you see out there, like you go to, I had a clogged drain. I had to go to Home Depot and get some drain, clearer, and I see a guy buying a lily, and that's really all he was there for, and it's so
right,
some people just aren't scared of this thing at all. Um,
right, it's a
I think,
lot of common sense stuff.
yeah, yeah,
Wash your hands, cover your mouth when you cough and sneeze.
yeah.
Right now, avoid the social contact.
Yeah.
Uh,
And we want to, yeah, we want to know facts. We want facts to be right. And then we live in the world where we have the internet, which is this
yeah,
giant cesspool of,
misinformation, yeah.
of facts or non-facts. And so, it's tough, and I get it. So yeah, I'm certainly not holding your feet over the fire to know how many cases we have, but I think we've done pretty well. And mostly I want to utilize this to promote the idea that we get stronger as a community. The positive aspect of this is that we can get beyond this and see what comes of that, and you start to I try to focus my energy on, at least on Facebook and things, on those stories and those times where you see people that are out doing things like, even like Bill Burke for beds, and Tony Randall, and some of the people that are really doing some great things that are trying to help out, all the nurses we have that work in the village, and
Sure.
Shout out to all the people that are turning this into an opportunity to become better neighbors, to make Westchester a better community, and not just sort of let it ruin anything.
All right.
So
And to circle it back to the financial side,
yeah,
uh,
sure.
we are wrapping up our budget now. We'll be talking about it tomorrow night at the budget meeting, which will be at 5 o'clock tomorrow rather than 7. We were able to move it up a little bit since most people are off, and we were able to do that. So it'll be at 5 tomorrow. We have been conservative and reduced some of our estimates on revenue because of the COVID-19.
Mhm.
We did definitely take all of that into consideration. Um, the interesting thing that I'm waiting to see is how our sales tax revenue has been, considering our, some of our major sales tax revenue generators have been in business, if not flourishing, that being Mariano's and Jewel, stores like that, because they've remained open. We don't have a lot of other retailers like Oakbrook does.
Yeah,
Uh, would have, I'm sure it's devastating Oakbrook right now. Um,
yeah.
so that'll be interesting to see. But we did take all that into consideration, just so people are aware that we did do that.
Yeah, that's the other sort of, numbers and dry talk that it's still worth getting into is how much do when you have sort of a proportion of taxes versus sales taxes and things like your property taxes, and then you have your sales tax side. Is it a fair what's the fair assessment of Westchester in terms of being bed heavy? Like, is it fair to think that we are more impacted? Are we, and are you guys sort of doing anything to try to wrap your head around that as much as quickly as possible as to the impact, since
Yeah,
most
that's what
probably
we're
are paying property taxes still?
yeah, with different revenue
Yeah.
generated, like the income tax, we ratcheted down because we just in our estimates we're saying, okay, well, people are going to be out of work, so here we go. They
Yeah.
might not pay income tax, so ours should be reduced.
Yeah.
Uh, Sales tax, like I said, we may be okay. But we still ratcheted it down. The big question mark in my mind is the property tax. I know we'll get it. I'm just hearing talk that it may be delayed. um, but that'll be just a cash flow issue.
Yeah. I think that's another question people had on Facebook, was whether or not there's communication with you guys in the state in terms of that. Like, there's a rumor going around that they're reevaluating all Cook County taxes, property taxes, and it's like, do they? As you said, I don't think they are yet, but I mean, you're probably expecting some communication about sort of how we're kind of, I don't know, not,
Yeah, I could see that happening.
yeah,
The only thing that's I mean, we're still gonna get what we levied for this year.
right,
Um, so, the property valuations, um, although play a part of it, it just it's not gonna cut anyone's property tax bills.
yeah,
So, um, but I think we're okay with our budget. We have a nice looking budget going forward. Um, and we're just trying to learn from this experience and you know do the best that we can for the village. And like you said, it was nice to see some other things happening, other ways to honor, like, I don't know if you saw John Ulinski's birthday celebration, where we did the parade of vehicles past his a World War II veteran.
yeah.
So that was a nice turnout. We did another one for another lady who's turned 100 this weekend.
Oh
Did
wow.
years. So we're still trying to obviously bring everyone together, um, and try and have some normal uplifting events as well.
Yeah,
But speaking of that, the Westchester Fest has been um, postponed, delayed, canceled. Um, it's not, it hasn't been officially said, I guess, but we'll talk about that at the meeting tomorrow. But in all likelihood, it will be canceled. We are talking about doing a fall festival instead, but again, it's all going to depend on the situation with the virus and if people are comfortable coming out, if we've got a vaccine. I mean, so many different things will go into determining that if we're allowed to have gatherings. Um, so, but that's what's happening with the fest
Okay.
and once the summer.
Okay. Yeah, and I see that as a give and take. I mean, there's a lot of things going on personally in people's lives where they can look at it as sort of give and take. I mean, they're a lot of people are struggling financially, but they're also not spending on some of the things that you
Right.
normally spend on. So, with all the time at home, I know we personally have been able to sort of take a look at our financial
Sure. Sure.
situation and say, well, what does this really mean? We're not spending money on daycare, but then this and that. Like, I know it's been no joke that some of the grocery budgets have gone up,
Yeah.
and it certainly has when you don't have restaurants to go to. But
Yes.
we committed to at least once a week. We commit to going to a Westchester area restaurant to try to help support them if they're doing takeout or they're doing things like that. So um, in terms of what I meant by when I started this was the fest, and so while we may not have one, that may help in terms of fiscal responsibility for Westchester, and so you see that kind of parlays into the roads and things. Like, are we sort of on track for some of the projects we wanted to do in terms of streets and stuff like that, or
Well,
how's that going?
um, uh, isn't affected by the virus or any of this.
Yeah.
That's just a long-term planning situation, which we're going to talk about tomorrow at the
Okay.
meeting. And I could talk a little bit overview. We have a 6-year plan going out um, to redo the roads, bridges, alleys, etc. Um, Cost is about $45 million. Um, so currently we only have a part. Actually, the total is about 50 million. We've got some of it covered, um, but we need to come up with $44 million over the next 5 or 6 years to get these projects done. The more we delay them, the worse the roads get, the more expensive it gets, because now if you're going from a road that could have been micro surface to a road that needs to be totally torn apart and redone, you're tripling the cost. So that's going to be the discussions that we talk about tomorrow. Um,
Okay.
we have opportunities for solutions, but it's going to depend on the taxpayers and what they want to do.
Yeah.
You know,
And that
go.
said, I think we both agree that it might be good to sort of give an update or talk a little bit about the TIF district and how things are progressing.
So on that front, we are getting close to finalizing the TIF districts. The planning commission is going to meet on the 27th. Make a recommendation to the board on the 27th, the 28th. The board will have the public hearing. Actually, I believe there's 2 public hearings that night, one for the budget, one for the TIF district, and then they'll be voting on it on that night at the meeting to go ahead and approve both districts.
Okay.
Uh, Hopefully, that's the direction we're going to go. Once we do that, we have 12 proposals from different TIF consultants, which we are in the process of reviewing, and we'll get them on board and move forward with trying to get some projects. We have some developers that have been interested for a while here on the Roosevelt Road corridor that we are going to start talking to again
Okay.
and move forward. We're also talking about moving Village Hall. We'll be discussing that tomorrow. The possible land acquisition. So we need to do that in closed session so as to not disclose any negotiating tactics or prices where we'd end up hurting ourselves and having higher prices.
Right.
But
Right.
tomorrow as well. So a
Okay.
lot going on this month, and hopefully it'll give us clear direction for the rest of the year.
Okay. And so tell me a little bit about the consultant stuff. I mean, I guess only what you really feel like you can. Is that what I want to know is like what is that part of it doing when you hire or when you talk about consulting for that TIF district?
So the consultants that we're looking at are going to help us kind of shepherd the TIF project through, create a vision, and find a developer that wants to follow that vision and lay out the district, and hopefully bring in some developers to make that all happen.
Right. Okay. Are you expecting the Roosevelt corridor to include any residential, or are you focused hopefully mostly on retail only?
It depends on what area of the corridor you're looking at. Obviously, the Roosevelt Manheim section of it, and where Village Hall is, and where those buildings are that are going to be torn down soon. That that's probably our best chance for our retail operations. Um, there may be some spots down the road, a little bit east of here on Roosevelt, that might lend itself to a mixed use type of situation. So that's what we're going to hire the consultants for, to help us kind of map that out and give us an idea of what would be best suited for these locations.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was one of the questions on there was on Facebook. Someone asked was just in regard to the plans for the post office and fire
Mhm.
department building and relocation of Village Hall. So we touched on that.
Yeah, so the post office may come with us. The fire department at this point would not. They would stay up here. We're looking at some other plans using a grant writer to see if we can get some grant money to rebuild a new fire department up here somewhere. So that's one of the options we're looking at as well.
Okay. Cool. So someone had asked if there was a current ethics committee. I'm not sure.
You know, there's so many committees on the books here. Quite honestly, I am not sure. I know we have Cook County makes us all, anyone in management, any elected official. We have to do an ethics statement every year, and they're due May 1. So we're doing that right now. But as far as an ethics committee, I would have to ask, to be honest with you. Like I said,
Yeah.
we have so many committees here, and a lot of them are not functioning. So we may pare those down, but I don't know that answer.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So, Citizen Advisory Board, Environmental Sustainability Committee, Liquor Commission, Police Pension, and Fire Pension Boards were all included within that question by someone on Facebook. And so I think that pretty much answers it, that you're looking at what committees and what boards there are and how
Yeah.
functioning they are. Is that
Well,
fair?
because we have a lot of them, actually, a lot of people on some of the boards that were never reappointed, their terms have expired, so we really need to clean a lot of that stuff up.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And then, yeah, most other concerns I see were just in regard to stickers and stuff, which we already touched on. I was trying to think if I had any other questions regarding the TIF district. So when do you see I don't know. I don't want to like hold you to something that people will jump on you about, but what's your best estimate for timeline there, just in terms
So
of how things look like they're playing out?
if we could get the TIF approved in the end of April, it'll be effective in May, and we can start talking to developers. If we could get a developer, we could possibly break ground in the fall. I mean, it could go that fast, or it could be a year before we get a development that we're excited about, that we really want to get in here. So it could take a year to 2 years.
Yeah. And for those that don't know, can you help explain, if you can, where those districts lie?
I'll first explain what the TIF is, because I know a lot of people have questions on that too.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's tax increment financing district, and it's a district that you have to get approved because it is a blighted area, or it's underperforming economically, and the property values are declining. And so a study is done, and we alert everyone that would be affected 750 feet around the boundaries of it. The boundaries are from Manheim to Roosevelt, and then Roosevelt to, oh geez, right by the bridge on Roosevelt. Um, Gosh, I forget the street name right now. So it goes up to the bridge, not the underpass, but the bridge going into Broadview, and then it's one block south of Roosevelt Road on either side. So that's the general area of it. And what the TIF district does is it freezes the valuation at a point in time. So they'll freeze it once we determine that it's a TIF district, and then any property tax increases, that increment will go into a separate fund. So say you have a property and it's a commercial property and you pay 20,000 in tax this year. Next year you pay 21,000 in tax. Well, that $1,000 would go towards this TIF fund. The other 20,000 would go to all the taxing districts, just as usual, but it would freeze that value for 23 years. It's a 23-year term on the TIFs, and what happens with all of that money then is when developers do come in and they say, hey, we need help with this or we need help with that to make this a viable operation or a viable business venture, it gets evaluated, and then we could give them assistance from this fund. So say, for example, a developer wants to come in and do a development, but the infrastructure is just bad. We could use some of that money to improve the infrastructure so that the developer doesn't have to do that. So that's what the TIF districts do. And then if we get done developing the corridor, we could halt the TIF, and then all that increment on all that tax money goes to all the taxing bodies. That increased value benefits everybody. The other thing is that obviously it turns some properties that were only generating property tax into properties that will generate some other taxes, let it be retail, gas tax, places for eating tax, any other taxes that are assessed, which will obviously help the village maintain its core functions and hopefully address some of the larger capital issues that we have.
Yeah, the $44 million you talked about, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Is there somewhere, I was just looking at the website to see, is there, like in planning and zoning, is there somewhere people can go to see the outline of the district?
I believe in I believe on the web in the economic development section, there should be one. If not, I could get one up there.
Okay, yeah, no worries. Yeah, I'm probably going to do a podcast with the that committee themselves if I can get them, somebody from there to talk with me more about it. We can get into more details too. So
Okay. Yeah, Melissa Headley, she'd be a good person to talk to as well.
yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know that you said you've been busier than ever, and that's good. I think that's great to see that you're still got a handle on everything. It sounds like everything is still moving along for the year, and that's all. That's all we can do. We can operate, and it's sort of what we've been trying to do personally. And I've seen talked to a lot of people that are sort of trying to do what they normally would do in a sense, and hope that we come out on the other side of this ready to go back to our new normal, our new normal life. But
We will. I'm confident of it.
yeah, for sure. All right. Well, great. We'll get back together hopefully in a few weeks if it's warranted, and we can talk more about what this looks like and how things are affecting Westchester. But I appreciate your time for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Anything else before we end that you would want to let people know about? I'm trying to think of everything, and I think we touched on quite a bit.
Yeah, no, just stay safe. Remember, we're not here to harm you. We're people too, and want to work everything out in the best way possible for our residents. So don't hesitate to call or ask questions. And as long as people speak to each other respectfully and without allegations and things of that nature, aggressive
Yeah.
tones. Everyone's
Yeah.
working things out. We just got
Yeah.
two heads and
Yeah.
remember, it's nothing personal. We're just trying to work it all out.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a polarizing time, but it's also a stressful time. And we already were fairly polarized in viewpoints before all this. And so I was hoping I would see that would sort of jar people into a little bit more of a friendly atmosphere and working together and sort of becoming closer more as neighbors rather than just people with differing opinions or different feelings about certain things, whether that be anything locally with the village or whether it be nationally. It would be good to see people come together and to be more reasonable, if anything. To I saw a post that I think you might appreciate or understand that some people are going through so much that you don't know about that some of the you want people to socially distance and you want people to stay in their homes, and that is the most effective way that they're telling us to get this thing under control. But like you say, the people that are that have been through AA meetings or that are trying to stay sober, or somebody who has had a lot of different issues going on. And so we try to you want to try to remember that when you're dealing with neighbors in Westchester, that you're not always certain what's going on and the stress levels that people might be under. And so if we can first and foremost always take an empathetic approach to our conversations or to our interactions, I think it's going to be a huge help. And to let people prove you wrong, give them the benefit of the doubt, and give the village the benefit of the doubt, let them give you the benefit of the doubt. And then as things progress, we can go from there, and instead of jumping right to the worst possible scenario or conclusion that somebody might be able to draw. So
And it's kind of funny because you mentioned the Home Depot, and I saw something like that as well. Maybe the guy was buying the plant because that was his therapy. The gardening was his therapy, and I
yeah.
saw, and who knows, that may be the fact. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. And yeah, you there are people that are taking this very seriously, and that's good. And then there's people that just aren't. We already have a lot of, not to get into national stuff, but we already have a plenty of a um, uh, mental health issues around the country,
sure.
to know that happens even locally.
Oh,
What can we do to help that person that we might not be able to necessarily recognize what they're going through, and to just give them some benefit of the doubt. I'd like to let at least one or two people yell at me a day if they needed to, but it's just the way that we are. If we can sort of change
right.
change we're all changing through this, and hopefully it's for the better, to be able to be a little bit more forgiving, a little bit more empathetic, a little bit more neighborly. And it's going to make this thing have a real impact on communities. And
Yeah.
I don't want to see this go on any longer than it has to. But I certainly was expressing to my wife that it would be interesting to see if it went on long enough to create a real change in people, and what that change would be. And so it's like a giant social experiment in a sense that we didn't ask for. And so I hope that that these are helpful. I hope that people of Westchester can ask any questions they need to on the Westchester Informed page. We have a page that you can go to access these. They're going to be through YouTube in an audio format. So you can listen to this, and hopefully it's helpful. We're going to try to do these as much as I can with the different people, Public Works. And I'd love to get the police chief on and talk a little bit about that as far as public safety goes. And so we're going to do our best. I'm going to try to keep up with these, and hopefully it's helpful for you. But let's just be the best Westchester we can be, and we'll get through this together, and we'll come out the other side. And so thanks for keeping us informed, Paul, about what's going on and about how these changes affect us. And if there are more questions and more issues that come up, then we'll certainly address those as we go.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Take
All
care.
right, have a good week.